I steal the paladin's gold. I punch the rogue in his thieving face. As Dungeon Masters, we spent a lot of time promoting peace and harmony, trying to stop the party fighting each other so everyone can focus on the quest. I did that for years, and I was wrong. I want the players at my table to be having a brilliant time, but the characters, I want them to disagree. I even want them to come to blows. Think about Lord of the Rings. Imagine if Boromir had never tried to take the ring, or if Frodo had never sent Sam away. Okay, they'd still defeat Sauron, comfortably I reckon, but would we care about those characters nearly as much? My favourite stories have heroes fighting villains, but they're also about heroes fighting each other. At our tables running games of D&D, we hardly ever play this out, and there's a culture within the hobby that it's not the done thing to do PvP, that's player versus player combat. Fantasy books and films are full of heroes infighting. Why can't we bring that to our games? My name's Rich, this is Renegade Rolls, and I'm going to show you how to create awesome character conflict at your table without creating player conflict. D&D groups are precious. Campaigns are hard to keep together. Schedules fall apart, people move away, life happens. So when you've finally got a group of friends around the table, the last thing you want to do is anything that might put that at risk. That's why characters falling out, and PvP in particular, scares so many of us as DMs. It's that fear of making game night awkward. It's the fear of ruining our friendships. If character conflict spills over into player conflict, then all your storytelling goes out the window. You've got a real-world problem on your hands that needs solving immediately, before you even think about starting to roll dice again. The good news, this is a communication problem, and communicating with our friends is what we're doing all night around the table anyway. That means we can solve it. Here is what that looks like. I can't believe your rogue didn't tell the rest of the group about the treasure map. Of course he wouldn't tell the rest of the group, it's what my character would do. Your character is an arsehole. I steal the paladin's gold. I punch the rogue in his thieving face. The problems in this scene started way before this moment. Saying, I'm not enjoying role-playing with your character, is tough. For years, I'd rather stay quiet than actually say that out loud. But frustration will build up. Annoyance at the table will bleed into the game. This is your classic talk with your players situation. I've made an entire video on that already, but for our purposes it boils down to just one idea. Separate what the player wants from what the character wants. When those two bleed together, things get personal. My character wants to save the day, defeat the Dark Lord, and get home in time for tea and medals. But me as a player, I want them to have so many problems along the way. I want impossible choices, messy relationships, and a spectacular disaster or two. And everyone else at the table, they've got the same split. The player won't always want what the character wants. When my rogue steals the map, I'm not trying to annoy the paladin player, I'm trying to create a really fun scene with in-character awkwardness for both of us to roleplay. Your players should be allies in telling the story, even when their characters become enemies. Players are collaborators. Characters are not. This doesn't require professional actors, just players willing to say, are we both happy exploring this? But that only works if you keep on talking to each other. Have a session 0, check in during the campaign, and remember that what people enjoy can change from session to session. I also encourage little out-of-character comments that remind everyone of that separation. Oh, I love this, my guy's doomed, or oh, my character's so angry just now. They remind everyone that the players are still on the same team. What this is all about is the players confirming with each other that they're enjoying where this is going. I can't believe your rogue character didn't tell the rest of the group about the treasure map. Yeah, I know, I hate him just as much as you do. I can imagine our characters getting on each other's nerves so much here. Shall we? I steal the paladin's gold. I punch the rogue in his thieving face. Amazing. My guy's gonna get his arse handed to him here. It's gonna be great. Oh, I love it. Ooh, 15. As DMs, we are really good at creating external conflict and strife for the adventurers. Dragons, vampire lords, eldritch horrors from beyond the stars. But the monster isn't who everybody cares about most. It's the rest of the party. And we can choose to tell those stories much more often and in much more depth. Boromir in Lord of the Rings is a good man betraying his friends. Iron Man and Captain America standing on opposite sides in Civil War. Woody and Buzz in Toy Story learning to trust each other. The external conflict against the monsters is where we find the stakes, but it's the internal conflict where the story can find its heart. Looking back at my own campaigns, I can see that I had this external conflict absolutely nailed. There was monsters and dangers and mimics, oh my. Great important sounding stakes. But around the campfire, everyone was getting along brilliantly. It was great teamwork, but terrible storytelling between the party. Let's look now at putting all of this into practice, when all else fails, when a character, not a player, has done something where the only way to continue is with some PvP combat. So how do we actually run it? The mechanics of D&D already tell us how to swing a sword and cast a fireball. That's cool, but not the interesting part. Our job as Dungeon Masters is to make sure this feels like the dramatic crux of a story, not two people trying to optimise a combat encounter. The dice will decide the mechanical outcome, but it's on us to decide what the fight means for the story. Here are the big three principles I keep in mind for PvP. Number 1. Fight over values, not stupidity or misunderstandings. The best PvP doesn't happen because someone is being a complete idiot. It should happen because two intelligent, well-meaning characters genuinely can't both get what they want. A paladin who believes that justice matters more than mercy, versus a rogue who believes that loyalty to their friends matters more than the law. Neither one of them is wrong. They're just using incompatible moral frameworks. So my core tip here, the one to really remember, the best PvP combat is a fight over values. Don't try and force these moments either. It never feels good when the GM tells a player what the character thinks or how they should react. Instead, create situations where different values naturally collide, and then let the players decide what happens next. If the disagreement turns into a fight, well, brilliant, because the players chose it. One thing I don't do is allow PvP in pickup games or convention one-shots. For this sort of scene, I need to be sure that my players can separate themselves from the characters. If all you need is a quick scuffle rather than a full-on duel, there's an even simpler option. When one character attacks another, just let the defending player decide what should happen. Maybe the punch lands, maybe they dodge, maybe they deliberately take the hit. But don't allow your players to say, "Aha, you tried to punch me, but you fell on your back and landed in the mud." It works best when it's kept fast and keeps everyone in control of their own character, for small moments without stopping the whole game for initiative. I use this technique a lot because it saves on mechanics and saves on having to roll for initiative and grinding the rest of the story to a halt. Big concept number 2, make it feel like a movie. Most likely, these fights will happen in what would otherwise be quiet moments, in a tavern around a campfire, but as DM, be thinking about how to move things forward without interfering with the balance of the fight. A wind kicks up and blows smoke and sparks from the campfire across the characters, forcing them to move. The enormous Goliath bouncer in a tavern picks up both characters and throws them into the back alley, where the fight continues. As DM, you've got far less to manage. There aren't 6 monster stat blocks to track. You can sit back and put on your director's hat. Look for any opportunity to keep the characters moving and making interesting choices. With D&D's sticky combat mechanics, there's a risk that the combat can quickly become, I hit you, you hit me, until someone drops. So as DM, make things dynamic in any way you can. Also, don't be afraid to pause initiative for roleplay either. Combat in films isn't wall-to-wall sword swings. Sometimes the fighting stops because someone says something that cuts deep, deeper than any blade. Also, ask questions. What's going through your head as your oldest friend draws steel? Or you hesitate for a second. Why? Those answers are likely to be the heart of the character. In these dramatic moments, we get to know them better. One of my favourite tricks is to cut away from the battle entirely. We flash back to the campfire 3 nights ago. The rogue was poking the fire with a stick. Paladin, what did you almost say, but decided to keep to yourself? Big tip number 3. The story should always be the winner. Who wins isn't the most interesting question we can ask. Ask your players instead, well, what changes? Maybe the defeated character finally understands something about the other person. Maybe the victor gets exactly what they wanted and realizes they hate the person they've become. Reducing each other to 0 hit points is fine, but could someone surrender? Maybe they throw down their weapon, walk away, refuse to strike the killing blow. Those choices are often far more memorable than one final attack. And whatever happens, don't end the campaign with PvP combat. The aftermath is where there's even more roleplay to be found. The awkward breakfast the next morning, the apology that never quite comes, or forgiveness. That's the story right there that you'll still be talking about years later. The best way to get started with player versus player combat is, talk with your players about whether you would actually find it fun. If anyone says no, that is completely okay. There are a million ways to enjoy this hobby, and infighting within the group might not be for everyone. If your group is up for it, give it a try, while checking in regularly to make sure you're all still having fun, while your characters aren't knocking lumps out of each other. For something you can actually bring to the table, I've turned everything in this video into a one-page reference sheet that you can keep behind your DM screen. You'll find it on the Renegade Rolls Patreon. Signing up is the best way to support me as a creator and the channel. If you'd like to see all these tips in practice in a real game, well, along with my friends at Tartan Tabletop and Comic Quest, we played a one-shot called Dungeons and Deathmatch. The curtain went up with the final boss line defeated on the ground. Much too often, that's where the story ends, but we were just getting started. Characters who trusted each other for their entire lives turned on each other, lives were told, trust was betrayed. In the end, there was only one member of Clan McSmasher left standing. We had an absolute blast. The Dark Lord Astaroth lies dead at your feet. Purple light from his outstretched fingers, diminishing, fading, as the life force within him fades to nothing. You look deeper into this undercroft. You see the treasure awaiting, sparkling further into the cave. You look to the treasure. You look to each other. You look to the treasure. You look to each other. Everybody, please, roll for initiative.
Ooh.
You're not ghosts yet.
Oh no, yeah? Yeah. Oh, can we swear on this?
Yes, you can.
Fuck yeah.